everyone, Helen here. It's been a while since I did the training, so I'm so excited that you are here. Because today we are going to talk about the one secret weapon that you need to beat overeating for good. You are likely here because you've been looking for a solution, and you've likely tried so many different things before, and nothing's worked. And this secret weapon is so easy but will make your results last. So if you feel out of control around food, whether it's binge eating or have crazy cravings, just can't stick to a diet, struggle with emotional eating, or you're just obsessing about food constantly, basically any form of overeating, then this training is for you. So when I use the word binge and you don't relate to that, and that's okay, the strategies that you need for different forms of overeating are so similar, and this video will still be relevant. So we are going to go through the secret weapon you need to regain control over food and to create the life with freedom that you truly deserve. And you'll learn why your past attempts didn't work and how to eat normally again without counting calories, macros, or fighting with your willpower all the time. And if you've been in my world for a while, you've likely heard of the 3-2-0 structure, because that's the foundation of all my work and the most important step that you need to take. And yet I've heard a lot of people scared to start this because they are scared of gaining weight if they eat regularly and stop cutting out foods or restricting in other shape or form. So we'll go over the fear of weight gain too. And more importantly, you'll learn how the brain works and use that to your advantage for long-term success. So you can lose weight once and for all. No more yo-yoing, and no more starting and failing a diet and starting over again. But of course, this isn't a quick fix. You probably know this by now, but I just thought I'd remind you. So if you are looking for a quick fix or a magic pill, so to speak, then you can stop this video now because you'll just be frustrated. In this video, you'll learn how to replace your current habits with new habits that will get you closer to your goals. How you eat, your thinking patterns like your self-sabotaging behavior, emotional eating, constantly picking at foods, cravings, nighttime eating, these are all habits. So we are going to replace them with new habits. And you've likely heard of different research studies that estimate how long it takes to create habits. I don't know how long, but certainly not within a matter of days. Some people say 21 days, some say 12 weeks, some say even longer. So unless you do the work, put in the conscious effort, you won't succeed. So you've really got to be committed and motivated to change. So as you know by now, this secret weapon you need is habits, which for the context of this training include your eating, your daily routine, your thinking style, your thoughts, and your coping skills, etc. And everything you learn in this training is backed by neuroscience. So in case you don't know me by now, my name is Helen and I'm a nutrition consultant with additional training in psychology and counseling. And like you, I struggled with my weight and my eating for many years. I tried different diets, but they not only didn't help, but I also gained weight and my life was very unhappy because I felt embarrassed and ashamed. It was like I had this deep secret that I had to hide from everyone around me. So trust me when I say I understand what you're going through right now. So for the last few years, I've been working with women to stop yo-yo dieting, overeating, binge eating, and emotional eating. And one thing that's vital for long-term success is habits, not willpower or motivation, because these are basically just feelings, and feelings change all the time. But our brains rely on habits, and habits are what we resort to when we are tired, upset, and stressed. So in this training, we'll go through how to build these habits so that you can take back your control over food too. But before we cover that, Let's start with what's unhelpful. A lot of people, when they first came to me, tell me that they've been trying to tackle their past issues or traumas so that they can get over the past and hopefully reduce their emotional eating. But the first shift that you can make is that you can stop looking for these past traumas or triggers, because that's unnecessary. How many times have you heard people tell you that you need to look back at your past for the underlying emotional issues or specific traumatic events that caused you to overeat or gain weight in the first place? I mean, what's the point of knowing the traumatic outcome of your divorce of your parents, or pinpointing when or why a depressive episode started? Or frankly speaking, for a lot of people, there isn't a specific event. And even if there was, focusing on what's triggering your overeating episodes right now is a lot more helpful when it comes to breaking these habits. In fact, for a lot of people, digging back past memories can be difficult because 1. It can be difficult to pinpoint what the exact triggers are, and 2. We can't change the past, and 3. Past memories can be painful and can actually set you back in your journey. Or lastly, I've had a number of clients who have had therapy or hypnotherapy or counseling in the past, but still can't stop binge eating, overeating, or emotional eating, because these habits have become so second nature that coming to terms with the past doesn't change anything. Instead, focus on finding your usual trigger for your overeating, picking at food, nighttime eating, binge eating, self-sabotaging thoughts and behavior, and developing coping skills and have an action plan for these instead. So the bottom line is, the past is the past. No matter what happened, it can't be changed. So focus on your current habits and behavior, and work on changing these habits instead. But I'll talk to you about how to do that later. In almost all cases of binge eating, nighttime eating, or even other cases of overeating, some type of food restriction is involved, either actively being on a diet or simply having a mentality of having good or bad foods, judging yourself for what you eat, feeling guilty, etc. And we've talked about the stress response many times, but when you begin restricting your food, whether physically or just in your mind, your brain gets this instinct to keep you alive. So it changes your physiology, like messing up with your hormones, your blood sugar, your body functions, so that you start getting crazy hunger cues and cravings, have low energy, and you get intense compulsive urges to eat a massive ton. And when you give in, your brain becomes happy, and the reward system lights up, and you feel happier than you would if you weren't on a diet. But after you've broken your diet, you aren't happy, because you're supposed to be on a diet and you just failed. So you restrict again, and your brain sends you even stronger signals and urges, and you fail again. And this cycle goes on and on and on, and you hate yourself for not having the control and willpower, and for not being able to resist these urges. But this is not your fault. However, this vicious cycle is technically also a habit, because you've repeated this enough times over the years. I guess you already knew not being able to eat in the way that you want consistently is what led you to your current situation. But the reason you've struggled for so long is because of the brain programming. In neuroscience, the programming and the wiring between our nerve cells change when a behavior is repeated enough times that it's wired into the brain, and you can do it without thinking, just like day-to-day tasks like driving, walking, or eating, or even breathing. Because your brain recognizes that because a behavior is repeated so many times, it must be important. And because we don't want to be constantly thinking about our breathing, walking, driving, and behavior like that, this behavior happens subconsciously on autopilot, so your brain has the bandwidth for more important tasks. And you can see where this is going because you set up a cycle of restricting and then overeating. But on the inside, the brain will send you that urge, and then you go round and round and round. And you've repeated this so many times, hardwiring this behavior into your subconscious brain. But of course you didn't know you were hardwiring the brain, and now you have a hard time breaking the cycle. So the bad news was you've repeated this so many times it's wired into your brain. But the good news is there's actually nothing wrong with you. Your brain is wired in repeated behavior just as it was perfectly designed to. So what this means is if you want to change the behavior and there's actually nothing wrong with your brain, and you want to change this cycle and stop this, then you can install a brand new program into your brain, just like when you started this cycle of restricting and overeating. You can install and override the old programming, and you're going to do that the exact same way you installed the old one, by repeating the new habits over and over again. Repeat it enough, and the new behavior will override the old one. It will replace the old habit. Repetition and practice, day in and day out. Of course, at first, this will be difficult, just like when you are learning to drive on the right-hand side of the road when you've always driven on the left, or learning to speak a second language. At first, it can be really difficult and frustrating, and you have to focus hard and be really intentional, and you might even overthink everything. And your body might have some resistance about it and doesn't want to act the way you are telling it to in your head. But as you gain the skills and you've got enough repetition and practice, putting your new desired habits into practice starts getting a lot easier and a lot more natural, and eventually becomes automatic because this new behavior is wired into your subconscious brain just as it should be. Use it or lose it, right? So stopping the vicious cycle of dieting and overeating will only happen if you practice new habits, which become more desirable behavior, new thoughts and new emotions around food until they become automatic. You must fire and wire a new default program into the subconscious brain. We all know habits are what we need in weight loss and weight maintenance. But ultimately, habits are what are sustainable. Your old habits got you where you are now, but new habits will get you where you want to be. However, installing a new program into the brain isn't that easy. Just think of your brain like a computer, and when you try to install something new, your brain will get defensive and will fight back, just like the firewall in your computer. So, here are what you need to do instead. First, you need to nourish your body and mind through having enough food and self-care. And as I said, I'm a huge proponent of the 3-2-0 structure because it mimics how a non-dieter would eat during the day and will help you re-establish that trust in your body. Unfortunately, this is also where a lot of resistance show up, because you've likely been dieting for many years or even decades. So you are really worried about eating more regularly and giving your body enough fuel, because that just sounds counterintuitive. But what you're doing just fuels this vicious cycle again and fires up all the physiological reactions that cause overeating, like I said. Years of dieting has left you unable to sense your hunger and fullness cues accurately. And when you are trying to regain control over food again, you need a simple framework like the 3 meals and 2 snacks structure that your brain can anchor to, because it has no uncertainty and there is no room for negotiation around meal times. You need some form of structure to prevent panicky feelings and out of control feelings in the beginning. You simply can't go from being in a cycle of restricting and overeating to eating freely. That's just not how your body or your brain works. However, this is not a diet. It's simply there to help you work with your body again. There's no restriction on what you can eat, calorie amount, checking food labels, or nothing like that. It's a process of learning how to eat normally again. Just like when you were a child, you likely had set meal times, had a structured environment, and this is just doing this again so you can learn to eat normally again. So for example, if late afternoon is always when you start nibbling, turn that into a snack. This gives it more structure and also takes away the guilt. When your brain knows the next food time is coming, the pressure reduces dramatically to look for food. And of course, you need to satisfy both your physical needs, like meeting nutrition requirements, and also psychological needs, like your cravings and eating what you like. Now, obviously, that's going to take practice and skills, but this is something you need to do day in and day out to rewire your brain. Practice sticking to the structure and also practice waiting till the next meal time. You really need to be patient with yourself until your brain and body can trust you again and stop giving you intense urges and hunger cravings. In the process of rewiring your brain, when your brain defends its old programming, you'll get lots of urges and thoughts about resorting back to old habits and behavior. Thinking patterns like just one bite or I'll start this tomorrow or on Monday. As I said, thinking patterns are also habits, and by actively assessing and untwisting these thought patterns, they can be changed too. One of the biggest thought distortions is the fear of weight gain. So let's take a closer look at this fear. You try to stick to a limit of 1200 calories, which is a number I hear women try to stick to over and over again. Maybe you succeed on one day, but you fail on every other day and eat like 4,000 calories over the course of a week. That might add up to 16,800 calories. However, if you try to eat consistently throughout the day, maybe your average calories is between 1,800 to 2,000 calories per day. Your total will only be 12,600 to 14,000 per week. So see how you are actually setting yourself to gain weight instead of lose weight if you continue to try to stick to a limit that isn't sustainable and will leave you starving and will leave your body fighting back. And I'm not even talking about huge binge eating episodes here. I know when I was struggling myself, there were times I could eat up to 10,000 or 15,000 calories in a day. So the 3-2-0 structure still applies, whether you struggle with huge binge eating episodes or just overeating or picking at food, this is still relevant. One thing to keep in mind though, there's a difference between temporary weight gain, water retention, bloating, and real weight gain. Sometimes in the beginning, as you start to eat more regularly, your body is adjusting to this change and holds on to extra weight. But once your body gets used to this consistent access to food, it normalizes and releases the weight gain. So some people find it helpful to refrain from weighing themselves in the beginning or reducing the frequency of weighing themselves. Just remember, weight fluctuations are normal. They happen within a day, throughout the week, and throughout the month, and way too many factors can affect your weight. And don't forget, when you are trying to diet and restrict, but then you fail, you also feel defeated, frustrated, and upset too. There's one more thing to remember. When you're trying to replace your old eating habits, your old thinking patterns and your behavior with new ones, and thus slip-ups will happen. A lot of people who diet or struggle with food also have this black and white thinking pattern, and one small mistake turns into a binge and start tomorrow. The sooner you get back on track with your new habits, the sooner you build your new habits. The new programming doesn't get deleted all at once. Think of it like learning a new skill, like you're learning a new language. Just because you have failed a test once doesn't mean you've forgotten the language and you have to learn from the first lesson again. You just get back up from there and learn from the experience. Practice, practice, practice. See this as a skill that can be practiced and improved. Break down your negative self-talk and identify specific components of your self-sabotaging behavior. Identify these negative self-talk and identify when it turns into self-sabotage. Get down to the experience. What was happening in your brain? What were you doing? Identify what you can change next time. Perhaps when you're telling yourself to have that just one bite when you're tired at night, next time instead of complaining how tired you are, replace the dialogue with a new narrative. Tell yourself that you're supposed to feel tired when it's night time and after a long day, and going to bed is what will help instead. Or maybe you can just replace your negative self-talk with a mantra. Just a reminder, your old habits took years to build and reinforce, so chances are it's going to take a little while for you to replace them with new habits. Always go slow and take it step by step and consistently. The chains of habits are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. And this quote applies to both undesirable habits and desirable habits. Just like you were unable to feel your old habits getting strong, you might not be able to feel that you are making progress with your new habits, but stay consistent and be patient. A good way to stay motivated with change is to recognize what you have achieved and celebrate every win, big or small. This helps strengthen the new programming that you're trying to install into your brain. So you already know that I'm huge on habits. So here are a few tips that I want to give you when choosing your habits. First, focus on habits that you can control, like doing something instead of stopping an action. If you choose to focus on stopping an action, like stopping binge eating, it's difficult because it's part of the habit and you need to replace this habit. It would be very frustrating and demotivating if you choose a habit like quitting an action. So focus on doing something instead of not doing something. Second, one thing at a time. Less is more. In the book, The Power of Less, the author achieved success in 7 areas, including stopping smoking, losing 40 pounds, running marathons, becoming a vegetarian, increasing his income, and writing books and getting out of debt. And he did all of these through changing his habits. And it's worth mentioning that he managed all of these in a 2-year period despite having 6 children. In one of the chapters, he explicitly talked about the importance of simple habits. One habit at a time, 1 month at a time, so that you'll be able to focus all your energy on creating that one habit. The process is actually very simple. Choose one habit per month, one at a time. Just choose something that's relevant to your goal. Write down your plan for each day. Set some goals and have an accountability system so you can stick to your plan. When you're just starting, choose easy and simple habits. Assess and review your progress from time to time and make adjustments. Some habits you might want to consider to start with might include having a nourishing breakfast every morning, adding a portion of fruit or veggies each day, drinking 8 cups of water each day. Whatever you choose, start with one and build on that habit later on. It's been shown that when you try to change just one habit at a time, the likelihood that you can still sustain that habit after a year is more than 80%. On the other hand, if you focus on 2 habits at a time, the chances of success is less than 35%. And if you try 3 habits or more, the success rate is less than 5%. So to put it simply, you need to simplify and to tackle one basic habit at a time. Practice the habit for a few weeks until it becomes a habit, and then, and only then, you can move on to a new action. There are a few reasons people stay stuck, and one is they don't know what to do. But you've been watching this training as well as getting my emails or reading my blogs, and you've been in my world for a while, so you hear me repeat the same thing over and over again, so you know what to do. But a lot of people don't take the necessary steps, so they don't make progress. And the third reason people can't break the cycle is because they can't stay consistent, and they give up as soon as they fall off track or when they are stuck. So this is what I'm here for, to break down these strategies into smaller goals for you and to hold you accountable along the way. So we talked about how your eating habits, overeating, yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, binge eating, your thinking patterns, or behavior like self-sabotage. These are all habits that are hardwired into your brain with repetition over the years. But the good news is, with repetition of a new habit, your brain can be reprogrammed, and it just takes practice, time, and patience until the new habits become second nature, and you don't have to think twice about these behavior or thoughts. So if you feel that you know you want to replace your old habits with new ones, but you either don't know how to do it and need some guidance, or you need some accountability, that's what I can help you with. In the Kickstart Strategy Package, I work with you one-on-one to help you identify where you are stuck exactly, and work with you on some personalized action steps to break these old habits and start building new ones. I've just given you some information about how the subconscious brain works, so now you need to put this into practice and actually create new habits and stick to them, and that's the difficult part. So with this strategy package, I not only lay out your action steps for you, I also hold you accountable and help you stay on track. And the best part is, if you decide that you want further guidance and support, part of the investment will be credited towards the Stop Binge Eating program, if we both decide that it will be a good next step for you. But even if the Stop Binge Eating program is not the next best step for you, after these 2 sessions, you will still have a clear idea of what you need to do and have a personalized action plan. This strategy package is suitable for you if you struggle with different kinds of overeating, like constantly reaching for food out of habit, yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, nighttime overeating, have insane cravings, or binge eating, and you're ready, committed, and motivated to take action and making the necessary changes, but you just need some support to get you there. So I'll put the link to book your package in the caption. I've got really limited spots available because of the time I put in to check in with my clients and keep them accountable. So if you're interested, I urge you to book a spot now, because the longer you reinforce your old habits, the more hardwired your old habits become, and the more difficult it is to break them. So if you've been struggling for a while and find it hard to stay consistent, then book your strategy package now so you can have a customized action plan and also have the accountability to get started. use the link in the caption or send me a private message. I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now.